Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pressing Matters, Pakistan's number one football podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and do consider supporting on the mic on EasyPaisa and JazzCash. Details are in the description below. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about Pakistani football in detail. Specifically, we are going to be talking about Pakistan's performance versus Tajikistan and Saudi Arabia, the matches that recently happened. Then we're going to be asking what can the Pakistani men's football team do actually. Also, questions like how has Stephen Constantine's performance been so far as head coach, and lastly, stuff like what to expect and how to judge this Pakistan national team moving forward. For all of these issues, I have two esteemed guests with me who have been on the podcast before. Sheikh Hamdan, you already know, head coach of Karachi United and a UEFA licensed coach who is a regular on the show. And also today I have with me Torben Vitayuski. Sorry, Torben, if I mispronounce the name. But you have also been on the podcast before. You are a pro licensed coach. Torben has experience coaching in multiple countries, from Germany, where he's from, to like Lebanon and India. And he has also worked as the Pakistan men's football team assistant coach. So he does know a bit about the team itself and what goes in and around the whole thing. Guys, let me just start off with the performance against Tajikistan. Maybe Hamdan, you can start. Um, what were your thoughts? Because I did a live sort of show after the match, straight, afterwards, and that was more raw and that was like straight off the bat what you think. But now that a bit of time has gone by, have your thoughts changed? What are you thinking now? And yeah, what do you think after a 6-1 defeat?
I think after the Saudi performance, what us Pakistani fans were expecting was we were silently and secretly hoping for a miracle against Tajikistan because we felt, if we could shut shop Saudi Arabia for a good 90 minutes for with the scoreline only 2-0, who knows at home with the crowd, with the support, we could get a result. This was certainly not what I expected. But coming from what actually happened in the game, I actually felt we were really, really bad in the out of possession phase. There were multiple reasons for it, which we can go in detail, but I do I do feel we were actually saved by that 6-1 scoreline. It could have easily been a 7-1 or an 8-1 performance. So I think these are my thoughts. I think something that I've always felt in an approach, when you take this sort of approach where you're completely banking on looking to defend, looking to stay tight, looking not to concede. Usually, when goals start to flow in, um, it, all of the other phases of play simply go out of play because all what you're banking on is the out of possession phase. So one of the major reasons I felt that we struggled was whenever we got the ball back, we would lose it within a couple of passes. So I think we never had respite. They were constantly attacking us, one chance after chance. So I think then the momentum completely shifted. So I think these are my general thoughts of the game.
Corbin, do you agree, or like what would you like to add?
Yeah, I definitely agree because what Shaikh said, I sometimes have the feeling that there is a solution or the focus against the ball, but it doesn't work. And if Pakistan has the ball, there's no solution. There's no solution. There's no plan. There's no focus to do something. And if you look to the match against Tajikistan, for sure, it is always easy to say we want to try to focus on the work against the ball, try to defend, but you have to be able to do that. And we saw it against Tajikistan that the team is not able to do it because I suppose it was the second and the third goal. You saw a big distance between the player from Tajikistan and the Pakistani player. So a big space he could finish. And I think this is a problem that there is no clear plan, no clear focus on what to do. And I think this is the problem why Pakistan is not able at the moment to win a match if they try to continue with this plan of football.
So I actually wanted to talk about this in detail, which is Stephen Constantine's tactical approach. which you two have mentioned. Hamdan said that there is an issue with the out of possession approach when you sit back and you defend deep. Um, and especially if you concede, like, what do you do after that? Because teams who usually set up that way do it so they can keep it nil-nil and then maybe get a 1-0 or something. But if it goes the other way, what are you supposed to do then? Because the whole point of the approach goes out of the window. But my question is, I have a couple of questions. First, the thing is, can we do better with another approach? That's the first question generally. Secondly, you both mentioned that there when we the out of possession approach didn't work and the in possession solution did not exist. But my other question would be, is an in possession solution realistic with the amount of time that Stephen Constantine has had? Let's not forget it's only been 4 games in, and also he did not get a lot of time on the training pitch even after the Cambodia game because of visa issues. He only arrived in Pakistan late. And secondly, can we expect an in possession solution realistically with a bunch of players who do not have a league system, who do not play at the highest quality in terms of decision making, in terms of time and space? Can we reasonably expect to have an in possession style against these teams with these group of players? Or is the best way to go about getting results in the round two fixtures, which is exactly what Stephen Constantine's job is, in my opinion, um, is to take the approach that we have seen, which is to sit back, get numbers in and around the box and in front of the goal, and hope to God, in a way, because the quality is really high. The difference in quality is really high. Pray that it stays nil-nil for as long as possible. And in a way, I think Stephen Constantine's job, the best he can do is right now is go with this approach. What do you guys think about that? Maybe Hamdan, you can go first.
I think it's slightly unrealistic that we can expect some in possession principles, and we can expect a game that we see Pakistan building out from the back and creating attacks after attacks with our in possession philosophy. I mean, there are various reasons for that. I mean, one, obviously, a lot of the players, they don't play any league, less time, all of the things that you've mentioned. But what I would possibly like to point out is when you ask what could be done a bit more to maximize our chances, I think a slightly proactive approach towards our out of possession phase, which I would link it with the transition phase as well, both the transitions. I think something that I do feel is realistic with this squad, with the time that we have, is having some counter pressing ability. So, what that would basically do is it won't allow the opposition teams to have this much space and time on the ball and look to pick out passes straight away when we lose the ball. And those could be situations where we can actually shift the momentum in our favor. So if you remember when we scored that goal, when Rice Nabi scored that goal, right after that moment, for a good 3-4 minutes, there were some phases where or periods of play where we looked to counter press, we won the ball back, and then we attacked quickly. I think if there is an approach, if there is a sustained approach towards counter pressing, I do feel. I'm not saying that we'll all of a sudden start to win 2-0, 3-0, but I do feel that we can put a decent amount of pressure on the opposition team. I think this is what I think. So yes, maybe having a bit of a proactive approach out of possession and then linking it to both the transitions and especially the counter press element, and maybe using that counter press to create those chances, and in famous words of Jurgen Klopp, um, counter press is the best creative weapon if you don't have a number 10. And he even said it, even if you have a 10, this is the best number 10. So I do think that's one element that we can maximize to get better results.
I would just like to, before I ask Corbin for his views on this as well, I would just like to say that because we're dealing with such a weird situation in which the country has no league. Even Nepal had a league, as Stephen Constantine said, even though they didn't have matching jerseys. The problem with that is, Hamdan, you know full well, at Karachi United, our counter press became really, really good once we amped up the fitness levels.
Yeah.
And that if you need to have a proactive approach with the counter press, you need excellent fitness levels, especially against higher quality opposition. The number 10 playmaker is the best, the counter press is the best playmaker against better teams, especially in the counter press, because you have exceptional uh, cardio and endurance and everything else that Jurgen Klopp's teams have had over the years. But how is Stephen Constantine supposed to do that when he only gets, say, 1 or 2 weeks before, or he got 1 or 2 weeks before each of these matches, and most of the players were like sitting at home doing nothing, not playing matches. It takes 1 or 2 weeks just to build up fitness to normal levels. So all I'm trying to say is, do you think it's realistic to even expect even a counter like, because if you're doing counter press, you should do it properly. If you're doing a half-assed counter press, then they might as well just sit back.
No, you're actually right. I think if we look at it, they had close to 2 to 3 weeks for this camp, and I think players were given a set of program that they had to do when they were at home as well. So I don't know how much they were doing that, how much and what the fitness levels are. But yes, it's a fair point that you do need to have high levels of fitness to carry on those things. But yeah.
So Torben, I would just like to ask you about both these things. Do you think the in possession sort of principles are realistic with the time and the constraints at hand? And also, do you think, with everything in mind, the approach that Stephen Constantine is taking or has taken so far, we don't know what he's going to do in the future, but knowing what we know right now, do you think the approach he's taken is the one that is realistic, or do you also expect like counter pressing with like more transition based, or maybe some more ideas in possession?
Yeah, I think we have to start from the beginning. You had a lot of questions. I think the first thing is for sure the problem is that in Pakistan there is no league. This is not an advantage. This is a clear point. A lot of players don't have matches. I think first of all it was not really good from the federation to change the coach so late. So if you want to change the coach, you have to make it earlier. That you have a new coach who has more time. So for sure, for Stephen Constantine, it wasn't easy because what you said, he came to Pakistan 10 days before the match against Cambodia. So it was difficult, but in my opinion, it was a mistake of the federation because to bring in a coach from outside without knowledge about the team, it makes no sense. For sure, now everybody is saying that he won against Cambodia, for sure. But in my opinion, I don't know Stephen Constantine in person because of that. I don't want to judge him. But in my opinion, Pakistan just won because Cambodia was worse than Pakistan. This is the reality. The reality is not that the performance of Pakistan was good. The performance of Cambodia was bad. So the next point is for sure you don't have a league. This is very difficult for the coach. In my opinion, it is always very difficult for Stephen Constantine because for sure we can discuss about the style of playing, but what you said and what Shaikh Hamdan said is that he doesn't have the time. There are no friendly matches. There's no training camp. There's nothing. So the question is he able to change the style of playing? And for sure, is he willing to change the style of playing? For sure, in my opinion, Pakistan is able to play in possession because, you know, everybody is speaking negative about Shahzad Anwar, but Shahzad Anwar in the last matches never conceded 6 goals or more. And Shahzad Anwar played against good teams too. It was not just Saudi Arabia and Tajikistan. It was Kenya, it was India, it was Kuwait, good teams, but no conceding 6 goals. So in my opinion, the team is able to play in possession, but you have to do it. You have to want it. And in my opinion, the style of playing of Stephen Constantine is just focusing on defending. And because of that, I suppose that he will not change the style of play.
Hamdan, I actually wanted to bring up Shahzad Anwar, so it's good, Torben, that you did. I think there was an intent to play possession football under Shahzad Anwar, but for also, I'm not taking like a shot at Shahzad Anwar at all. I just think for the same reasons he was not able to implement it as well as he maybe could have. because again, there's a limitation on the type of players. There's a limitation on. So Shahzad Anwar had the players for a long time, but still, I don't think we were as effective in possession as he would have liked us to be, even because I remember a lot of the times Pakistan tried to build up, but there were turnovers because there was a weak link in the build up, or there was something. Because if in the build up, if you have even one or two weak links, and the opposition, if they do their due diligence and they do their analysis and they know, okay, this person is the weak link, they will adapt their press or their out of possession structure to make sure that that is the sort of that is what happens every time or most of the time. And this is what we saw a lot of the time, that the a lot of players were getting frustrated when we couldn't build up, and it was leading to turnovers, which was leading to more sort of chances for the opposition. So Hamdan, do you think um it is something that is, I don't know if I don't we already discussed if it's possible or not, but it may be given more time, maybe something like that, we could see something else. But what do you have to say about Shahzad Anwar not conceding 6 goals and trying to play a different way?
I think there's a linkage to what Tobin said, because what Shahzad Anwar was trying to do, uh, it was pretty apparent throughout those 8 or 9 games that he was in charge that they were still looking to build out play. They were looking to take the initiative. A major problem with replacing Shahzad Anwar with someone who is not the most proactive in terms of playing out from the back, or we haven't seen up till now, is that it's a complete different shift from what they had been working to what the demands are now. Number one. Secondly, what and again, like football is linked in all 4 phases. The deeper you defend, the more distance from your goal to the opposition goal. And then if you're spending 80% and 90% of your time in the outer possession phase and looking to coach that, looking to train that, looking to master that, it becomes extremely hard. As a coach, you can prioritize so many things if you've got 10 days, and 10 days where players are not accustomed to playing regular competition, not accustomed to playing and learning what usually happens in a league. It's a really difficult spot for the coach, because even if I'm put in either of the two coaches' places, I'd be confused of what the right approach should be. If you drop deep, you say, okay, you know what, we won't concede. But like we've discussed, one goes in, the confidence goes out, because then there's no other thing that you have done. You concede 2, 3. If you look to build out, there are turnovers, like you said, because of various reasons. So it's a very, very difficult approach. And I think there's an element of uh, maybe mismanagement from the coaching staff, because I do share this one belief that Shahzad Anwar was under-equipped from a coaching staff perspective. And maybe that was one of the reasons that the results weren't as good as we expected.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. He was under equipped. I think only Torben was there to help in the technical aspects. There was no one else, which is a
And
shame,
that
honestly.
even and I think that even Tobin can correct me, but he was thrusted in mid tournament in that Djibouti where they were playing Djibouti. No,
Yeah,
I think it
my
was
my
in.
next question. So we all agree it's a difficult spot to be in. So my next question is, Torben, to you first. How can we, or how should we judge Stephen Constantine's job and how he's doing?
Yeah, it's difficult to judge. First of all, we must say he did his job, because I suppose the job was to survive the first round of the World Cup qualification, and he won against Cambodia. So in football, we say the results are the most important thing, and he won against Cambodia, so everything was good, everything was right. So the federation made everything on the right way because they survived the first round. But what I said is that, in my opinion, every other coach would win against Cambodia too, because the performance of Cambodia was too bad. They weren't able to beat Pakistan. This is my opinion. But for sure, what Shaikh said, my opinion is, you have to look in the future of Pakistan. And in my opinion, Stephen Constantine is not the right coach for the development of Pakistani football in the future, because I'm very sure that he will leave after the second round of the World Cup qualification. He will not continue. And then you start from the beginning again. So in my opinion, it would be better to continue as example with Shazad Anwar, or to bring in a coach who knows the team. In my opinion, it made no sense to replace the coach, to say, okay, we will not continue with Shazad Anwar, and to bring in a foreign coach like Stephen Constantine without knowledge about the team. This was, in my opinion, this was a mistake of the federation. But for sure, at the end, we have to say they made everything right because they won against Cambodia. And this is the reality. So I suppose this is the problem in Pakistan, that they made everything right. Okay, it's a big celebration for the country. Everything is good. But in my opinion, for the development of Pakistani football, Stephen Constantine is not the right coach.
Okay, my thing on that would be A, Hamdan, maybe you can answer this. Is it reasonable to expect the national team coach to be tasked with the long-term development of the players? And B, do we not have Stephen Constantine in India, for example, like an example of what he did in India, where he was tasked with improving the ranking of the national team, which you do in a certain way, which you can be smart about. For example, you pick a team that is overranked, and you try to play against them and beat them, and then you sort of go up through the ranks slowly. I think India became 97th rank under Stephen Constantine. And so the question, that's the first thing, you already know, that is, should a national team coach be tasked with the long term development? Secondly, can't we do something, or can't we expect something similar to what he did in India? But the problem with that is that he was only tasked with improving the ranking of the national team, and the long term development was something that was happening on the side. That is actually how it happens, with the ecosystem being built, and the league, and the youth structure and everything. So over time, so what I'm trying to say is, because Stephen Constantine cannot do anything as the head coach of the Pakistan national team that will help Pakistani football develop in the next 10 years. What he can do is just try to get results and improve the ranking. Do you agree with this? This is my sort of devil's advocate position. What do you have to say about that?
I think I'd like Tobin to go first because he's had experience of coaching in India and he can maybe share something. I think Tobin, over to you, man.
I I think the reality is, for sure, Stephen Constantine made a very good job in India, but India has different resources than Pakistan has. The reality is that what you said, the stuff in Pakistan is very slow. I'm not sure if Stephen Constantine has even assistant coach. I don't know. So in India, what you said, you have a youth system, you have academies, you have a league. In Pakistan, there's nothing. So, and because of that, you cannot compare Pakistan with India. And because of that, I think Stephen Constantine is not able. I don't think he's a bad coach because he showed performance everywhere where he was. In India, it was a great job. But I think in Pakistan, it's very difficult to develop because you have a lot of problems around the national team. You don't
But
have.
how is a coach, like, what kind of head coach, what is development in terms of a head coach? Because he gets the players for such a short time. The
Yeah.
rest of the time they're like sitting at home or something. Are you saying maybe he has like a year round camp or something? I don't know. One potential idea, I guess, if you don't have a league, or I don't know what the hell's going on there. But maybe what I would do is get, like, I don't know, the top X amount of players in Pakistan, bring them together and start organizing regular matches between them, within, like, on weekends, for example. Like, nothing fancy, just in-house matches. So the best players keep playing every week, for example, and then training happens during the week. Because you have to get sort of creative with these problems. You need match practice of some level. And I guess training matches or stuff like this, or having an in-house league, short league, like with 4 teams or something, is much better than not having anything at all. But what else can a coach do when there's no league or nothing happening? What is development in your idea?
Yeah, I think it is very important to start with the structures. So you don't have scouts. You need scouts. You have to look for players abroad. You have to look for players in Pakistan. You need a youth system. You have to start from the beginning. And because of that, I think you need look if you look to the federation, you don't even have a technical director. You have nothing in Pakistan. So the head coach is everything. And this is the first mistake in Pakistan. So in my opinion, you need a head coach. You can work with Stephen Constantine, but in my opinion, you need a head coach who is living in Pakistan, who's there, and Shahzad Anwar is there. You need a coach who has knowledge about the structure in Pakistan, about the problems in Pakistan, because Pakistan is special, and you need a coach who is willing to try to change and to try to improve some things. So you need academies, you need a scouting system, you need to look to the youth, you need everything. And I suppose that Stephen Constantine is a coach who want to be a head coach in professional football. In Pakistan, you need to be more than a professional head coach. You need to be a team manager. You need everything. You have to be everything, and this is the problem. And I think this is not the role for Stephen Constantine, because you have too many problems in Pakistan. You don't have the big stuff, and this is the problem. And I think because of that, you need more guys. You need a technical director. Maybe you need scouts. You need guys who looks abroad. You need guys who look in Pakistan. And I don't think that Stephen Constantine wants to do that.
Hamdan, how much of what Torben has said, like scouts and the ecosystem, can Stephen Constantine or any coach influence? Because anyone who comes in, apart from the point that Shahzad Anwar lives in Pakistan, so he knows the problems and is like the local situation and everything much better and will be there the whole year round. Apart from that, what can any other coach change in the situation to improve the structure, the youth system, everything? And secondly, what do you think about, like, what can Stephen Constantine do, if at anything at all?
Again, this is a very tough one because I mean it also depends on what kind of role Stephen Constantine has been given by the PFF, and what kind of a role he has taken. So, for example, uh, according to me, yes, what Tobin just mentioned, that there should be a technical director and then there should be a head coach, but I do agree to what he's saying, that we do need someone who's in here full time, and maybe he can be the head coach, but he could be like a manager, how it happens in England, where he's looking after the whole club. So maybe yes, he's looking after the country, but the biggest thing that I would like to point out is, maybe Stephen Constantine has all the $1 million ideas of how the youth should be structured or how the scouting should be set up, but is the PFF ready to implement those things? Do we have the resources? Do we have the money? Are we willing to do that? Do the NC have enough time on their hands to actually come in and implement them? Because NC would feel, if they've got X amount of money, they would prioritize the national team playing some matches, as opposed to these guys setting up some scouting networks and then jeopardizing those friendlies. So like he mentioned, that Pakistan is a special case. I think under the current NC, and in a tenure which is a temporary tenure, I don't think any head coach can come in and ring all those changes that Robin is talking about, because these things are so uncertain. So, for example, I'll
So
just give you
why
a
should
small
why,
example.
what does it matter who the head coach is then? That's my question. What can the head coach do?
Yeah, ultimately, it's a vicious circle that we're all going round and round. Maybe you could say, okay, Shahzad Anwar is the right guy, and let Shahzad Anwar be the coach. And then you'd say, okay, you're losing 4-0 and not 6-0. So, I mean,
But you
I'm
also
lost for
won.
words.
So the
Yeah.
point I'm trying to say is that it doesn't matter at the end of the
It's a
day.
really,
4-0, 6-0, 7-0. It's like
I, I, I- yeah. I don't have an answer to this, to be very
Okay, so then
honest.
the other question is talking about 4-0s and 6-0s, Torben. How much can we expect Pakistan to do in the remaining in the round two of qualifiers? So, for example, Pakistan somehow won against Cambodia, right? Now they're in round two, they're with the big boys. This is the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is you are up against countries like Saudi Arabia who play for World Cups regularly, whose league system has Ronaldo, Benzema, Kante, Neymar, all of these players, right? They are pumping in a lot of money for football.
Mhm.
They have the AFC Asian Player of the Year. Then you have Tajikistan. Then you have Jordan. These are regulars at the top level of Asian football. And then there's Pakistan, who just managed to get into round two for the first time. How much can we expect?
Yeah, for sure. You have very strong opponents, but this is what Shaikh said at the beginning. So if you try to defend, if you try to reach nil-nil, you need quality for that. And you are always facing teams with a higher quality. So, and if you see the match as example against Saudi Arabia, against Tajikistan, you try to defend, but you get pressure for 90 minutes. And sometimes there is one guy who is sleeping and then you concede a goal. So, in my opinion, you have to try to be brave. You have to try to be brave. You have to try to play in possession, try to get finished, try to score a goal, because you have nothing to lose. Nobody expects
Sorry,
that
sorry. I
you.
would just like to say I'm Stephen Constantine. I'm saying, listening to this and saying, guys, I only had 7 days. Do you think I would risk being brave? Then we would have conceded 10. So, for example, Shahzad Anwar didn't concede six because Shahzad Anwar had the team for like months, right? Not saying anything against Shahzad Anwar, but this is what Stephen Constantine might be thinking. I just had them for like 2 weeks. Do you think I would risk being brave in 2 weeks and conceding 10? Maybe six is what we. So, six, that was just a bad performance, and we saw that it was pretty open. But let's suppose against Saudi Arabia, 2-0 after 90 minutes, 4-0 overall. Um, do you think he would say, probably, or I'm like imagining him saying, do you think I would risk going brave against Saudi Arabia after such a short time being under my tenure and risk getting like 8-0 or something? Because that could be another. So the thing is, we don't know what would happen if you would open up under
Yeah,
Stephen Constantine because he hasn't had the time.
yeah, for sure. But now you try to defend and you conceded 10 goals in 2 matches, so it doesn't work. So in my opinion, you have to try because again, you have nothing to lose. Nobody expect that you win a match, and I think if you lose 2 matches, if you concede so many goals, you have to try to change something. And because of that, I think a solution could be okay. Maybe you can also look for different players because you have time until March, so you can try to get new players. Maybe I don't know, but you have to try to change something, and for sure you have nothing to lose. Why you shouldn't change?
Hamdan, last question. How can we judge the team moving forward? And linked to this is what can we expect in the remaining Group 2 fixtures?
It's again, it's a very open-ended question. Like, what would be the parameters on what would you judge on? Would you judge on, let's say, I'm just giving you a scenario, Saudi Arabia 2-0 90 minutes. Do you say that this is a very good performance?
I would say so.
Okay, then the other hand is you created next to nothing or maybe point 0.4 xg or maybe only having so much little to actually
Quality
score.
difference. Insane
Yeah,
quality
so
difference.
no. Let me just say कि I'm not denying that the quality difference. I'm just saying this is a very difficult. Uh, I I mean, how do you judge
Or do you just
performances?
sit back and say, just enjoy the team playing? You have nothing, you can't
I
really do
think
anything.
you know something that could realistically happen is, I mean, we all can agree that Pakistan has got very little chances of progressing from this group. So I think what is more of a possibility that we go into the Asian qualifiers. So I could have played it a bit differently and I could have tried to implement something in terms of a style which could have carried on in the Asian Cup qualifiers. But then again, the biggest problem is okay, maybe we work for 3 weeks in a camp, we play 2 games, the lads go back home and then do nothing for 2 months. I think that's the biggest problem that that we have right now. I mean, Tobin knows and would know, and you know it. When players come back after not doing anything for a good 1 month or 2 months, it takes at least 3 weeks to build up their aerobic fitness. So if half your time goes in the camp on building something up or building something which is a baseline necessity to perform at this level, or not even at this level, to even play at Sunday League, I don't really know what or how much of principles you can implement. In my opinion, the way to judge this is I don't think any manager that would come in more or less would perform to a similar extent because of all the other external factors. This is just my opinion. And I think this isn't down to the players. This won't possibly down to the coach. Yes, maybe some other coach could possibly improve 30% on what we're doing right now. But ultimately, it's down to the federation and what the political situation is, and that has hampered us more than any of the other stakeholders. So the other stakeholders are coaches, players, referees, groundsmen. I think those are the big. Our biggest struggle is the ecosystem, which is completely non-existent. I don't know what Tobin says, but this is my view. My view is you can get Pep in, and maybe if you give Pep 1 month's time before a game, maybe he can build and drill in some ideas. Maybe he can pray to the Lords that we start being brave and we really do play out bravely. We can still possibly lose, but I would love to know from him once that camp ends, once the lads go back home, once they roam around their streets, and after the next 3 months they come up, they're zero, they cannot even run a good 5 6 kilometers. I don't really know what I would have done. So
Yeah, fair
I
enough.
yeah, that's
No,
what
I
I
think
feel.
that this is a note to end it on, because I think what this episode or this discussion shows, what we already know, I think what it will show people who are watching and or listening, is that you should not even focus your energies on, you know, dissecting the national team that much. You should focus your energies on demanding the ecosystem, demanding the political issues that should be solved. Because what the national team is doing right now is something who's the like the seeds were planted for this 10, 15, 20 years ago. And you need to make sure that 10, 15, 20 years later, you do not have the same situation. And so you focus on planting the seeds today. Forget about the national team, what they're doing. Whatever we get, like 2-0 after 90 minutes against Saudi Arabia, I think those are your little wins for the time being in this group. Other than that, like Torben said, it doesn't matter. You're already conceding 4 or 6. Just forget about the results and focus all your energies on demanding an ecosystem, demanding long-term measures that make sure that we're not sitting here 10 years later and saying the same thing, that bring in Pep and then even he won't be able to do anything. um
I think that. So sorry, Tobin, I'm cutting you off. I'm very sorry because I thought you were about to speak. And this just one last thing. I think once we do put in all of these positions, we can actually then do evaluate whether Stephen Constantine
mhm.
is the right man for the
Yeah,
long term.
exactly. We don't even know now. We can't judge anyone because
Yeah,
we said this so many times before. How are you? I think this is like deja vu. We had these same discussions about Shahzad Anwar after the SAF championships, where we were like, how can we judge a man? It's like one person going to war by himself and expecting to beat an army, because like the guy has no support. Only Torben was there for a limited time, and there is no ecosystem, there is nothing. How can you even judge someone? How can you judge the team? How can you judge the players? How can you judge the coach? So it's all down to ecosystem. Torben, if you would like to add anything as a closing
So
note, otherwise.
this is exactly what I wanted to say. So Stephen Constantine is not a bad coach. The problem is that Stephen Constantine sings too professional for Pakistan because there's no environment. Yeah, no, this is what Shaikh said. There's no environment. There's no team around the team. Stephen Constantine is there alone without something. And because of that, you cannot expect something. And this was the same with Shazad Anwar. So Shazad Anwar in Mauritius took care of the visa. So you have to imagine that. Yeah, he was in the embassy to take care of the visa. So this is not the job of the head coach. And this is the problem in Pakistan. The problem is around the team, not in the team, not the coach. The problem is around the team, and this is the biggest fault in Pakistan.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. Um, Sobering reality, but this is a reality that people need to take into account, especially related to Pakistani football. Um, People were sort of expecting a result against Tajikistan, maybe after the performance against Saudi Arabia, but people need to I think it
I
was
mean,
a good thing.
I put my hands up. I was
Yeah, yeah,
expecting a
sure. I
result.
think I think people got caught up.
Maybe because I did a 20-hour bus ride and I thought within my head, you know what, we're getting a result
Yeah,
because
I
I'm
think it was
coming.
a
I
it
may
was
be
a
a good
good
omen.
good result in the sense that it brought people back to the ground. I think it made people realize where we are at, and anything we get, like I said, is a bonus. I don't think we can expect anything from Stephen Constantine, from Shazad Anwar, from anyone unless the things around the team, like Torben said, are improved. It was a pleasure, guys, to discuss this with you. Hopefully, we can have further discussions on Pakistani football. Hopefully, something changes in terms of long-term measures. But until next time, this has been Ismail Farouk with Sheikh Hamdan and Torben Tajikistan. Until next time, take it easy.